wake up and realize had it all.
Hey, how you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. This is another episode of Open Doors. Have you missed me? I've missed you. We're going to have an awesome time today. If you don't know me, my name is Chris Harris. I'm going to be your host. I'm going to be your navigator. I'm going to be your moderator as we have an awesome time discussing a certain topic today. But before we do anything, I want you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already hit it, if you haven't already subscribed to Open Doors, because you know how it go. Through the course of the week, through the course of our busy schedule, you may miss that another episode has dropped. So you don't have to worry, you don't have to search. If you subscribe, that episode will come right to you. And this is what I want you to do. Share each episode, because I know there is somebody out there who wants to discuss what we're discussing here on Open Doors. This is a free space. We can come together and we can discuss different topics that are pertinent, that are important to us. I want to also give a shout out before we get started to the Dream Team. Blessed Production, my boy Alfred. Also, Eyes Have Not Seen, my sister Marilyn. They are the brains behind the operation. They are the driving force. They make sure that everything is a go when it comes to this podcast and everything is successful. Also, don't forget to connect with me on Instagram. Just search Chris Harris and we and you can be connected. All right, let's get started. Today, I have an interesting topic that I want me and you to discuss. But before I introduce the topic, I want to give you 3 scenarios, okay? This is the first scenario. Now, this is a true story. It may seem a little extreme, as I said, but this is a true story. I knew a man, or I should say it this way, I overheard a man talking one day, right? And this man was talking to his son's mother. And the man was requiring his son's mother to leave her work, her job, to come home and take their son. They have a son together, take their son to the doctor. Now, the mother is at work. The father is off of work, but he still required the mother, the son's mother, to leave her work, to take her PTO time, her benefit time, take a half a day to come to the house and take their son to the doctor when he already had the son. I say it may sound a little extreme, but it's a true story. Stay with me. And when the man was questioned on why he would do such a thing, his response was, taking the son to the doctor was women's work. All right, that's scenario number 1. Let me tell you scenario number 2. I recently read an article on LinkedIn, and there was a lady on the article, or in the article, who was saying that she has a friend who has a startup business and has a limited amount of employees because it's a startup business. But they've been swamped with customers. So the salespeople for the business, they weren't able to go out into the field and go out and to generate sales because they were stuck in the office answering phones and taking on the customer's demands. So when the woman asked the friend, have you thought about hiring an administrative assistant to handle the in-office stuff so your salespeople can go out and handle the sales and bring in new customers? The administrative assistant can answer the phones and take any inquiries that are in the office. The friend responded back and said, yeah, we're looking at bringing in a girl who can handle the administrative side of the job. So she asked them, why a girl? That's scenario number 2. Scenario number 3, I know a lady, and I was having a discussion with a lady, and we were talking about roles in the house, different tasks in the house. And the lady told me this. She said that she would never touch a lawnmower. That as long as she had a man, her husband, in the house, that she would never touch a lawnmower. That if she had to touch a lawnmower, there was no need for her to have this man in the house. So those are 3 different type of scenarios. And that brings us to the topic of our discussion today. Is there a such thing as man's work or a woman's job? Let me say it again. This is interesting. Is there a such thing as man's work or a woman's job. And I want us today to look in the home because there are different tasks, duties in a home. And also, I want us to go into the workplace because there are different job titles. There are different jobs in the workplace. Is there a such thing as man's work or a woman's job? Now, I gave you 3 scenarios. And as I said, the first scenario is a little extreme, but it's a true story because the man who's at home with his son, who could easily take his own son to the doctor, made the mother of the child, made the mother of the son take off work, use her time to go all the way home, get the son, and take the son to the doctor. I think that man should have been smacked if that was me, between me and you. Because how can you make this woman risk her job, possibly lose her job, when you're at home with the child, to go all the way home to take your son, the son that you had, to the doctor? But he said because in his mind, in his heart, that's woman's work. That's a little extreme. But let's look at the other 2 scenarios. Because a startup business, they need an administrative assistant. But the owner of the business says, yeah, we are thinking about bringing in a girl to handle the administrative side. And the friend, which is a lady, asked, why a girl? And the person's response was, because we know that women are better at those type of things. That's another question. Are women better at certain roles in the house or in the workplace? Or are men better at certain roles in the house or in the workplace? And then the third scenario I gave you, a lady is telling me that she would never do certain type of jobs. And the job that we were talking about was mowing the grass, cutting the lawn if a man is in the house. So should a gender be tied to a role? Should a gender be tied to a task? Or have we stereotyped genders when it concerns certain roles, whether in the house or in the workplace? Have we stereotyped women to only do certain things? Have we stereotyped men to do certain things? This is interesting. You know, as you look back in American history, the role of women, if we go back, was very limited. For a long time, women weren't able to work outside of the home. So a woman's role was in the house. The woman took care of the house, took care of the plantation, took care of the farm, took care of the family, while the man went out to work, while the man went out for war. Just looking at history, I did some research, and right after the Industrial Revolution, maybe like the mid-1800s, that's when you saw a small percentage of women actually going to work. But they were going to work mainly working in someone's home or working in their family. And as you follow the course of history, it increased a little bit where women were starting to go to work, but most of the women who were going to work, maybe like the early 1900s, were women who were considered single, uneducated, and poor. And the jobs that these women took on were certain jobs that they were only allowed to take on. They were clerical jobs. They were factory jobs. And as I said, they were jobs in someone's home, taking care of the housekeeping in the home or taking care of the family. And we know that as time went on, World War I and ultimately World War II, women were allowed to go out and work more and take on certain roles. And as we keep going into time and coming up to today, rights have increased for women. Doors have opened for women, not just in the place of employment, but also in education with Title IX. But could it be, just talking about it, could it be, as we look back, that because women in history were limited in the work that they could do outside of the home, and ultimately the work that they had to do because of the limitations, could it be that we have stereotyped certain roles that we say women do this, men do this? You know, when we look back at history, I can even look back at my own family. My grandmother had 10 kids. She had 10 kids. Back in the day, my grandmother was born in 1920s. Back in those days, people were having a lot of kids. So look back at the times as well. The family dynamics as well plays a big part. As I said, my grandmother had 10 kids. At that time, there was no daycare. So what else can a mother do who has that many kids, but you have to stay home and raise those kids while the man goes out for work to provide for the family? My mother was born in the 1950s. My mother was a teacher. And my mother told me as I was growing up, she said that as she was growing up and pursuing her career, that there were only really two industries, being a woman and also being a woman of color, that most women were allowed to go in. And that was teaching, education, and also nursing. So the limitations of our culture, the limitations of our history when it concerned women and the roles that they took on, it's different now because the family dynamic is different. Because women weren't allowed to do certain things, but as the doors have opened, as years have gone past, now women, as I said earlier, the educational door has opened. So now we have women who are not staying home. They have opportunities to jump into the professional landscape. We have different opportunities for women where they're not staying home and raising children. So the family dynamic has definitely changed. But could it be that our mindset hasn't changed, though, as far as history has changed? Because could it be that we have stereotyped? Because we were raised a certain way to think a certain way when it comes to the gender roles in our society. And could it be that we are still looking at it from a lens that people looked at it from years past? I was raised, just looking at myself, I was raised where anything physical, any manual labor, anything that would require sweat or require heavy lifting, a woman shouldn't do. If a man was there, a man should do. And that's the way I was raised. And that's the way I raise my children today, because that's where I came from. That's the mindset that we had. I found myself recently thinking about something because I have girls at home as well as sons. But I remember telling my wife that you should get our daughters in the kitchen. You should get them in the kitchen and teach them how to cook. And not just teach them how to cook, but also to do laundry. Now, why was I saying that? Was I saying that because I want them to be efficient? Because there is nothing wrong with wanting your child to be efficient, because they should learn. They should learn those things. They should learn how to cook. They should learn how to do laundry. They should learn how to do the regular upkeep of a home. These certain things they should learn how to do, but they should learn it to be efficient. They should learn it so they wouldn't have to depend on somebody else. So was my thought process behind wanting my daughters to do this because I want them to be efficient? Or was I thinking, oh, this is woman's work? Or this is something they should do so they can keep a husband, or they can keep a man in their life? Or this is something that mothers do or women do? What was my mindset behind that? And to be honest with you, as we're having this discussion today, I was in the middle, because I've always taught my daughters, hey, this is the way that you want to keep a husband, you want to be a good mother, this is the way you need to do, or these are the things you need to bring to the table. But is that right? Is that right? But that's the way I was raised. That's the way I was raised. So I have to ask a question again. Is there a such thing as a man's job or woman's work? And I want us to look at in the home. And I also want us to look in the workplace. Because should there be gender tied to a certain task, a certain duty, a certain role? Should there be a gender tied to a certain position in the workplace? Because we know what the history says. But now that we've come to 2023, now that we've come to present age, and we look back, should things change? Should things change? Should there be a gender tied to anything? Is there such thing as a man's job, or is there such thing as woman's work? Let's go into the home. There are certain duties, certain tasks, normal roles, normal things that happen in the home. Vacuuming, cleaning of the house. Is that woman's work? Should there be a gender tied to that? Back in the day, a lot of times, yeah, because the man was at work, the woman, she was assigned to the house because she couldn't go out to work. So that was her job. Her job was to take care of the house. Her job was to take care of the family. But as I said, things have now switched on us because now a lot of women are going out into the workplace. A lot of women are in corporate America. A lot of women are taking on professional positions. So they're not in the house per se. They're out in the marketplace. They're out in corporate America. They're bringing in the paycheck. They're bringing in the earning. They're the sole breadwinners now. A lot of things have changed in our society. So there is still the housework in the house. But should that be solely on a woman? Should that be solely on a certain gender? Because the house is the man's and the house is the woman's. You want your house clean unless you like a nasty house. That's your preference. But you want your house clean. So should it be a woman's job or a man's job? What about cooking? What about cooking? Because everybody got to eat. The man has to eat. The woman has to eat. So should cooking be in the house be tied to a gender? And you know what's so funny? I was thinking about this because I believe there is gender bias in our society. I believe there is gender bias. In the house, a lot of times, per the stereotypes that we put on, you see cooking going to women, right? You see cooking going to women. You see a lot of women cooking. But when you go out into society, a lot of the chefs are men. But in the home, you see cooking, our viewpoint, that's women. Our traditional viewpoint, the majority you see is women, but outside in the workplace, the chefs are men. And I believe going back, as I said, our history, the role of a woman back in the day, they were at home. They took on all the assignments at home while the man was out, but now things have changed. And I said out there now, a lot of chefs are men, but there also are a lot of women who are chefs. But in our media, most of the times what you see glorified are the men when it comes to the chefs. So I said there are some gender biases, but let's go back into the home because we looked at cleaning, we looked at cooking, buying the groceries, fixing things around the house, doing the manual labor around the house. I gave you a scenario, the mowing of the lawn outside or shoveling the snow, depending on where you live. Should that be tied to a gender? If you see your neighbor, if it's a woman, let's give a scenario. If you see your neighbor out one day and it's a woman mowing the lawn when you come home from work and you know she has a man in the house, you have a problem with that? Are you going to judge that man? Because could it be that the woman wanted to do that? Say, I say it again. Is there or should there be gender tied to a role in the house? Because like I said, if the woman wants to go out there, I've seen plenty of women when I'm driving home, I come home, I see the wife out there cutting the grass. Is there a problem with that? Like I said, for me, the way I was raised, it's a problem with that because if the man is at home, now for me in my house, my wife does so much, right? She does so much with the kids. Yeah, I go out there and I work and I provide a paycheck, but I see the value of my wife and I know that my wife does so much. So I figured the least I could do is cut the grass. The least I could do is shovel the snow. The least I could do is do certain things around the house just to help her out because we're a team, we're a couple, we're as one, and we're in this together. So that's what I choose to do. That's my preference. But if you see a woman out there cutting the grass and you know she has a man at home, do you have a problem with that? Because is cutting the grass a man's job? Is cooking a woman's job? Is cleaning a woman thing? Should there be a gender tied to it? Because everybody lives in that house. Everybody lives in that house. And I believe that every house is different. I was thinking about this a lot. I believe every house is different. And I believe it's preference because there are some houses where the woman is staying at home and the man is going out and he's working, and he's not just working, but he's working long hours. He's doing a tedious job just to provide for his family. So the woman may stay home, the wife may stay home, and therefore, because she's staying home, she feels like, okay, because I'm staying home, let me take care of all the house duties. That's the family's preference. That was works for that family. And there are some families where the husband is staying at home and the wife is going out, and the wife is the sole breadwinner. And the man may feel the same way. He may feel obligated to take care of the house duties. But then there are some families where they split it 50-50. It's a division of duties. Say, hey, I'll take care of some things, you take care of some things. And also, if you have kids, that brings me to my next point. If you have kids, make sure those kids get to work. They live there too. Don't let them kids off the hook. Get them kids chores. Get them kids duties, tasks. It shouldn't be on you, mom. It shouldn't be on you, dad. Those kids are able. Get them kids involved. They can wash those dishes. They can take out that trash. They can mow that lawn. They can do those things. They can wash. If they're of age, they can wash their own clothes. You're no maid to them. You're no slave to them. Get those kids involved. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But a lot of times it depends on the preference. It depends on what works for your house, what works for your family. But that's the home. Let's go into the workplace. Because traditionally, there's been a lot of jobs where we've said, oh, that's women's work, or jobs that's just for men. Let's look at some jobs. What about nursing? Most of the time, nurses have been women. As I was saying, my mother used to always tell me that when she was growing up, that the jobs or the industries that women could go in were teaching and nursing. But men can be nurses too. I know for a while they were looking for male nurses. They had a shortage on male nurses. So it shouldn't be a gender tied to nursing, should it? Because a lot of times nurses, you're doing a lot. There's a lot of labor in there. You got to lift some people up. You need a man to be good as a nurse because there are some people who are heavy. You got to turn them over. You got to lift them up. You need someone strong. Not saying that women are not strong, but a man can do that job as well. So should there be a gender tied to it? I think not. And I say that because maybe as men, we've missed out on certain jobs, certain careers because we thought, oh, that's for women. No, I wouldn't. That's for women. But it could have actually been for you. It could have actually been an industry you could have went into and been successful in that industry. But because we were raised a certain way, or we thought a certain way, and we put stereotypes on genders and gender roles, we could have missed out. Teaching, I mentioned teaching is another one. Most of the time, at least when I was growing up, most of the teachers were women. And there was a shortage of men in that field. When I was going to school, grade school, high school, and so on, most of my teachers were women. And I had a few men teachers. And let me tell you, and maybe this is because I'm a male and these men teachers were male and we could relate. The teachers that impacted me the most were men. That's me. Because I had a lot of women teachers. Because like I said, that's the field, that's the industry. Mostly women go into teaching. Nowadays, I think it's changing. It seems like I see more men going into it. That's a good thing because men can teach. A lot of times, people need to see, or these kids need to see from a woman's point of view. They also need to see from a man's point of view. Like I said, I had mostly women teachers, but the ones who really impacted me to today, I remember, are the men teachers that I had in my life. But we can go on and on. Police officers. Back in the day, it was mostly men, but now we see women. Firefighters. Back in the day, it was mostly men. Now we see a few women. Should it be a gender tied to those roles? I was driving the other day, and I was waiting because there was a truck, a big rig, that was pulling into a spot. And I was sitting there watching as the person driving the big rig was maneuvering in this small space. That's a skill. That's a skill. The way they can maneuver those big rigs into a small space, back it up, move it around, and get into that small spot. But the person driving it did it. And when they were done, I was going past. I saw who was driving it. It was a woman. I said, go ahead now. Okay, go ahead now. But you see a lot of women driving trucks. You see a lot of women now who are bus drivers. You see a lot of women who are train operators. You see a lot of women now doing construction. That was always thought as a man's job. Oh man, hard hat, physical labor. You thought, doing certain things outside, lifting certain things. You saw that as a man's job. But there are a lot of women who is doing that job now, and deservingly so, because like I said, normally in our society, we looked at heavy lifting and sweat and things like that, or physical labor as men's job. But there are some women who get after it. There are some women who can lift more than men. They get after it, and they don't want anybody to tell them that they can't do it. And they should be able to do it. So that goes back. Is there a such thing as a man's job, as a woman's work? And I asked some ladies, I gathered like 5 ladies the other day, and I was asking them this same question. And what they told me is the same thing I feel in my heart. That no job, there's only one job that you can say that's women's work, and that's having a baby. Because women carry a womb, men can't have a baby. But other than that, any type of role in the house, any type of role in the workplace, there shouldn't be a gender, because it's all about preference. Now, the women I was talking to, they said, I can't see myself dropping an engine or changing tires or changing oil. That's their preference. But if a lady wants to be a mechanic, and there are some women mechanics, if a lady wants to go out there and do construction or do carpentry or anything of that nature, drive a truck, drive a bus, they should have the right to do it. Going in the home, there shouldn't be a gender tied to any role at a home. And as I said, it depends on your family. It depends on the dynamics of your house. But to say that's women's work, to say that's a man's job, in my opinion, I believe that's a no-no. What works for you, what works for your house is all that matters. So what's your take on this discussion? I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting topic. Is there a such thing as a man's job? Have we stereotyped different positions? Have we stereotyped roles in a house, roles in a family? Because that's the way things were in the past, and we've adopted it. And because we saw it when we were growing up, that lens is what we look at, and that lens is where we operate. Give me your viewpoint. I want you to share your opinion in the comments. Also, share this topic to your friends, because this is something that I think we should talk about. Because there are some things we say, oh, I won't do. That's a man's job. Oh, that's women's work. That's for women. But maybe we miss out. In the workplace, maybe we've missed out, because maybe a lot of us should have went into nursing or should have went into a certain position. Oh, we thought that was women's work. The women I was talking to, they made me laugh. They said, yes, we've definitely stereotype. We've definitely put stereotypes on certain roles. The women told me that just because the man is a beautician doesn't mean that he's gay. They told me that. Because we always thought if a man is doing hair in a salon, he's gay. They told me no, that's a stereotype. So the way we've seen things in the past is the way now that we've come of age, we've operated. But is it time to change? Is it time to pivot? Is it time to change our mindset? So I want to know what you think about it. Share it. Add your comments. That's all I have for you today. Until the next time, I've had fun. I hope you have fun. I see you in the next episode. Again, this is Chris Harris. This is Open Doors. You have a blessed day. Until next time. Thank you.
Don't ever take nothing for granted, man. Hey, you gotta wake up and realize.